Let's be joined once again by our friend from Fox Sports, ladies and gentlemen, three-time Super Bowl champion Mark Schlereth back on the program. Good to see you, Mark. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Rich. You know, Aaron Donald.
Yes, sir.
That I said it forever. Aaron Donald, to me, is the best football player. He was the best football player in the league all the years that he played. The guy was a one-man wrecking crew. But I had a meeting with him the first time I met when he's playing with the Rams, and I sat down with him, and I said, hey, it's 3rd down and 12. What's your go-to move? And he just stared at me. So I thought maybe he didn't understand the question. I was like, okay, wait, now it's like the game is on the line, 3rd down and 12. What are you hitting the offensive line? You got one-on-one with the guard. What's the go-to move? What are you going to beat him with? And he just looked at me, and he goes, why would I tell you that? Why would I? He's like, why would I let that information out? I'm not telling you anything. Those are trade secrets. Like we've ever since then, we've had the greatest relationship because every time I see him on the field, I go, hey, it's 3rd and 12. He's like, get out of here. I'm not talking to you about this.
I love it.
He's just one of those dudes that, man, I tell you what, he made me glad that I didn't play anymore every time I watched that guy play, because that dude was unbelievable, just unreal.
Teron Armstead was here, and he said multiple times outside of being here as well, saying that essentially Jared Verse, with such heavy hands and such moves, made him start to realize maybe I should retire. Was there a guy like that for you, Mark?
Yeah, pretty much all, Rich, pretty much all of them.
Come on now.
I kept like, oh my God, this guy again. There, like the first time, I don't know if you remember Jamal Williams, who played for the Chargers, and the Chargers had such an unbelievable defense back when I was playing. Their offense stunk, and we always beat them like 24-7, but it was the hardest game we ever played.
Sure.
And I'll never forget breaking the huddle, and Jamal Williams is a rookie, and he's lined up across the line of scrimmage. And I'm walking up the line of scrimmage, and he's got no tape on his fingers, no tape on his wrist. He doesn't have gloves on. And I thought to myself, I was walking up is, oh, shoot. Like, I'm in trouble. Like, this guy's a lot tougher than me. He got no tape anywhere. Like that to me was like it was like, uh-oh. Like, if they start coming out here and not wearing tape on things,
right,
like these guys are tougher than I am. And so there was quite a few of those guys over the course of my career that you're just like, man, this is going to be a long day.
And then just wrapping up this part of the conversation, who was the workout warrior when you were playing? Who was the guy that Jared Verse was describing as Aaron Donald when you were in the league?
You know, the guy that always blew me away with the shape that he maintained all year and the way he ate was Shannon Sharp. I mean, Shannon Sharp, buckwheat pancakes, no syrup, never ate a piece of fried chicken, everything he put in his body was plain boiled chicken. He used to just eat boiled chicken.
Jeez.
And he would come into minicamp, and he'd be like 250 and ripped. I mean, big 250 and ripped. And then he'd come into camp like 3 months later, and he'd be 228. And just if you threw a cat on him, the cat couldn't claw in and stick. He just slide right down. There's not an ounce of fat on the guy. And you would just marvel, like his body, and he still has that type of body and that type of discipline, man. That dude had the most disciplined regiment when it came to eating and working out of any guy I've ever been around.
Yeah, that's why what's so amazing about DK Metcalf is he eats candy, like simple sugar candy. And he still looks like the phrase Daniel Jeremiah used when he came out of the draft and he was at the combine. He said he called him a human bat suit, is what he referred to DK Metcalf, you know?
Yeah. No, the dude is and the nicest guy, but you're right, eats garbage. Like, I played in a Pro Bowl with Randall McDaniel, and Randall McDaniel was like, he was put together. You want to talk about a great athlete, Hall of Fame guard, the unbelievable. Like, I couldn't watch Randall McDaniel film because he could do things that nobody on the planet could do. And I would be like, anytime we followed like Minnesota, and I'm prepping for a defense, you know, and so you get certain teams, there's certain guys I like to watch. Like, how did Bruce Matthews play this guy? I used to always get Bruce Matthews tape or Steve Wisniewski tape. How did he play it? How did he set him? Let me see what I can learn from these guys, right? Randall McDaniel, I'd be like, can that tape? Like, that's useless to me because he'd take false steps and everything else, and he'd be on guys and just absolutely dominating. You're like, if I ever took that step, I would get beat 100 out of 100 times, because he was so athletic. But Randall McDaniel shows up to the Pro Bowl, sits in his locker before the game, and eats a bag. Same thing, a bag of candy. He had like every kind of candy you could imagine. And that's all he's eating. And you're like, how do you have that type of body, that type of strength, that type of just athleticism, and all you eat is candy? Like it was his pregame meal.
It's amazing. Some people's metabolism, right? Mark Schlereth here on the Rich Eisen Show. Aaron Rodgers said there's about usually 6 to 8, if not maybe 10 to 12 teams in training camp that on paper can win the Super Bowl, and considers the Steelers one of those teams. Would you, Mark?
Yeah, depending upon how Aaron plays. And I did a Rodgers game late in the season, and Aaron and I have been friends for a very long time. And so it was interesting watching the beginning of the season and just watching the highlights and what, like when you're calling games, you're so knee deep, you're in this silo that's an inch wide and a mile deep of the team that you're going to call. So you're watching and trying to keep up with the rest of the league, right?
Right.
And I had seen that he wasn't really performing very well early in the season. By the time I got him in December, he had about a 3-game stretch, man, where he was dealing. And the game I got him in was against Jacksonville, and he lit it up. I think Devontae Adams had over 200 yards receiving in that game. I mean, he lit them up. And it was interesting because I'm on the field before the game, and I'm watching all the quarterbacks throw, and I'm watching Aaron Rodgers throw. And let me just tell you, the arm talent, the ball freaking jumps out of his hand. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then there's 25-year-old quarterbacks on the other side and the backups. And they're not even from the same planet. Like you're watching, the other quarterbacks, Mac Jones throw the ball. And you're just like, it's not close. At 40 years old, it's not close to what Aaron does, to where he puts the ball, the velocity comes out of his hand with. And he played really good football. So if he can stay healthy, like it's a huge key. And then Arthur Smith, implementing the things that Aaron Rodgers does exceptionally well with the running game that Arthur Jones, the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, puts together. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight formations. I love Freiermuth. I love what they did with Jonnu Smith. Like, I think that this is a team that can truly compete if Aaron Rodgers is healthy within that division. Got TJ Watt signed, made some additions on the defensive side of the ball. I think they've got a real legitimate chance.
Are the Broncos one of those 10 to 12 teams right now that you could think are a Super Bowl contender, Mark?
I really think that they're a team that continues to build, right? I think one of the things they have right now is continuity. Don Payton has put a really good team together. I think there are some places that you would look, running backs at question, outside of Cortland Sutton from a receiving standpoint. Do they have a guy that can take some pressure off of him? But Sean has got himself the right quarterback. And I think one of the cool things talking to Sean about Bo Nix, the things that he loved about Bo Nix, his ability to process. He said he sat down in their pre-draft meeting. He gave him a load. Like, he gave him more than anybody could ever digest. Gave it to him at like 6 o'clock in the evening. Had a meeting with him the next morning at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, whatever it was. And he said Bo Nix knew the offense inside and out, had an A+ grade as far as learning that playbook and all the information they gave him to learn. And then the things he loved about him: throws the ball on time and accurate. And you cannot be accurate in the National Football League if you don't throw the ball on time. And then ultimately doesn't take sacks. And that was the biggest thing. And Sean has the same philosophy I do when it comes to sacks. The way the game is operated today, there's very few 7-step drops, 5-step drops with multiple hitches, right? The game is quick. It's outside the numbers. It's get the ball into your playmaker's hands and go. Sacks have become more a quarterback-driven statistic than an offensive line-driven statistic. And so if you don't take sacks as a quarterback, you don't take them because you get the ball out on time, you get the ball where it's supposed to go, a lot of 3-step, a lot of 5-step drops without hitches. Like, you shouldn't take sacks. So if you do, that's on you as a quarterback oftentimes more than it is on anybody else. That's your responsibility. And he loved that factor about Bo Nix. But the thing that really resonated with me about, I can't remember which game exactly it was, but they came off the field and Sean Payton fashion got in, like he just got in Bo Nix's ass, right? And started yelling at him when he's coming off the sideline. And Bo Nix just flipped around and got right back in Sean's face and then walked away. And that to me was when Sean Payton was like, oh, I got my guy. Like, I got my guy, right? This is my guy.
Yeah.
And we've all had those moments as players when a coach sees something from the sideline, but it's not what what he thought he saw is not what actually happened.
Right.
And you'll be getting your ass ripped. You're going to the sideline. I remember a story with a guy that I just have so much reverence for. Alex Gibbs coached the offensive line in Denver when we were winning back-to-back championships.
Sure.
And I remember him showing this Polaroid, getting in my face. I was sitting on the bench after a series, and he's got this Polaroid picture. He's like, look, you screwed this up. He's dog cussing me. And I'm like, dude, that ain't what happened. That ain't what happened. And I kept saying that's not what went on. I was trying to explain to him. And he is just he's just in my grill. And finally I was holding onto my helmet by the face mask. I just took my helmet and tried to break his sternum. Wham! I hit him, knocked the air out of him. And he stumbled back a little bit. I said, if you think you can block these guys, be my guest. If not, get the blank out of my face, right? And so there's this intense moment, and then I get my grade sheet the next day, and it doesn't say, hey, I was sorry or anything like that. It just goes, you were right. That was it. That was the end of the conversation. We never spoke about it again. Right? It was just like, you were right. Boom. Let's move on.
I love it. These are
and so some of those things happen.
Sure.
But it's the things that bond you together, right? And it makes you respect one another's opinions. And if you have an opinion on, man, this is why I did it, and I'll stand by it, then I think coaches and players respect each other for those things.
I love it. Mark. Great stories. Love them. But that was a yes or no question I asked you at the top. I don't think I heard an answer. Are the Broncos one of the teams on paper that can win the Super Bowl this year, do you think, Mark? Yes or no?
I do. Yeah, I do believe. I believe they've got a great defense, unbelievable defense. I think Hufanga coming in there. I think Dre Greenlaw coming in really helps bolster them. There's some question marks, but I think once you get in the playoffs, you got a shot. So I think on paper, they're one of those 12 teams that have a shot at winning a championship.
Yeah, man. I love Jody Barron also as a draft choice with the reigning defensive player of the year in the same secondary as well. What about the Vikings? Are they one of the teams that can win the Super Bowl this year on paper? Are they one of those teams right now?
I'm going to say, I would say no. And I think the Vikings are really exceptionally well built. But I think there are going to be some growing pains early for J.J. McCarthy, as there are for most young quarterbacks and most young players. And I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome that. I still look at that division. Chicago with Ben Johnson, that's going to be a much improved football team. Ben Johnson, a great play caller, really understands the offense, really understands just football in general. I have a ton of respect for him. I look at Dan Campbell, what he's built in Detroit. And, Dan Campbell, I always say this about that guy because people will look at it and go, hey, he lost both his coordinators. Dan Campbell he plays the role of meathead exceptionally well. The guy is a super smart football guy. He's got his finger on the pulse of that team. They have done unbelievable things. I think they'll be right back in the thick of things. Green Bay, obviously, under LaFleur, really good football team. They had some struggles. Obviously, love having some injury issues early in the season. But I think that division is so tough. I would say Minnesota's on the outside looking in as far as one of those teams that can win the Super Bowl.
So you put Green Bay above them?
I'd put Green Bay and Detroit above them, and then kind of neck and neck with Chicago.
Okay. So let's run through this in the few minutes we have left here, because we did this at the top of the show. Why not? Let's go division by division. How many in the AFC East are Super Bowl win contenders?
Buffalo. One.
Okay, one. And then the AFC North. Who do you have there?
I would have the two teams that I'd like in the North are obviously Baltimore's got a real shot, and Pittsburgh would be my number 2 team.
Over the Bengals. You don't think the Bengals have, because of who's holding out right now? What if let's just say the Bengals are fully constituted. You still don't think that Burrow could be that? Because what I said yes earlier, Mark, because they were the team at 9-8 last year. Like, don't let them in the tournament, and their defense wasn't that great at all, as we know.
Defense was bad, and their offensive coordinator came out in this offseason and said, hey, we're just going to have to outscore people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. How did that work for you last year?
Not great.
Right. So I just don't like the way they're constructed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the way their offense operates. And I would say that Zach Taylor, if you're talking about hot seat coaches, Brian Dable's on the hot seat, right? Zach Taylor would be one of my guys that's on the hot seat right now. And you've got one of the best quarterbacks. I think he's the best quarterback in football. I really do. But I don't like defensively. I don't like the way they're structured, and I don't like the way their offense is structured. I think you put too much, like that guy has got to play on the high dive. from start of the game to the end of the game. You don't have the breather plays. You don't do you put him on the high dive and you say, hey, man, go win us a game. And I just think that's an unfair position, even with a great quarterback, to put that guy in at all times. I just don't like the way they're built.
AFC South, how many teams are in that Super Bowl win contention? You put Houston
zero.
In there? Zero. Okay.
I just don't think I don't think Houston's ready. Like they're a playoff team, but are they going to compete for a championship? No, I think they're, maybe get to a divisional game, wild card divisional game, that weekend. But I don't see them as an AFC championship contender.
So you put Denver in before in our conversation as a contender, win contender. Chiefs obviously there. Do you put the Chargers in that mix?
I do. I think the Chargers, I think that division is really, really tight. And I think the Raiders are much better as well.
Sure.
I don't know if you're going to get 3 teams out of that division. Like you did a year ago. I don't know if you're going to get that because I think that division is so tight right now. I think the Raiders under Pete Carroll, obviously, they went out and they got the running back in the draft who, like, it's against my core belief to say anything nice about a Boise State player.
Nice.
But Genty is unbelievable. That guy is great. And obviously, Geno Smith, I think, is a huge upgrade at the quarterback position.
All right, let's whip through the NFC. How many NFC East teams are Super Bowl contention teams?
I think there's 2 teams.
Okay.
Philly, obviously. I think Washington is still there.
Okay.
I think the Cowboys are playoff contention, but I don't put them as a Super Bowl contender.
How many in the NFC North? You'd mentioned Detroit and you mentioned the Packers, but that's it?
Yeah.
Or you put
2,
the Packers in? You do put the Packers in. Okay.
I put the Packers and Detroit in there.
NFC South. Tampa?
Tampa.
I
put Tampa in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in the West, NFC West.
I put the Rams and the Niners.
And the Niners just because of past performance and a lot of these guys are back and healthier and Robert Saleh's there now.
I'm a believer in Saleh, huge. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, I'm a huge believer in Kyle Shanahan. I'm a big believer in Brock Purdy. Like the way he processes information and gets through his reads, and a lot of it is dependent upon a healthy Christian McCaffrey, and he's just such a weapon for them. But I think the one thing that happens sometimes when you have a lot of injuries, kind of the blessing in disguise, is you find a lot of young players that you're like, oh my God, that kid can really play. Oh my goodness, we can move on from that particular player. And I think that's what Kyle Shanahan found in Juwan Jennings, even though he's got the contract thing that he's going through right now. I think he found that in a lot of young players on the defensive side as well. So I really like the way they're constructed. And the reason they moved off those guys is because they found some young players that could really play. Pearsall really played well at the end of the year last year. So I think they feel pretty confident in the young players and how they establish themselves.
Fitting you and we end with Purdy because the number of Super Bowl contending winning teams you've just named are 13. 13 out of 32. Yeah. So about a third of the league here, more than a third of the league, which makes sense.
Yeah, when I came in the league, we had 28 teams in the league, and Joe Gibbs, it's the first meeting we ever had at training camp, said there's 10 teams in the league that can compete for a championship, and we're one of them. And it hasn't changed much since then. Even though you increased to 32 teams, it hasn't changed a whole lot.
Mark, you're the best, brother. Let's do this again before the season, okay? Thanks for the time.
Anytime, Rich.
You're the man.
Anytime.
You got it. Fox Sports, Mark Schlereth, right here on the Rich Eisen Show podcast and so many more ways. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.